Thank you again for joining us on this next episode of Tallawah Justice Talks, where we are featuring women who lead survivor organizations. In this series, we want to highlight the work of these powerful women from the Global South who have turned their adversity into triumph and who lead organizations with other women who are survivors and advocate for gender justice. Today, I have with me Victoria Nyanjura. Victoria is the director of the Women in Action for Women. A survivor herself, she has turned her adversity into a powerful tool to empower other women, to bring them together and to bring about change for women survivors everywhere. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I'm happy to be here.
Victoria, can you just tell us very briefly a little bit about your own experience as a survivor? Tell us, in your own words and as much as you feel comfortable, what you experienced, and in particular, how that experience has helped to shape your approach to other women.
On an October night in 1996, I woke up in my bed at school to the sound of strange men shouting and breaking glasses. Members of the Lord's Resistance Army abducted me and many other girls from my school that night. I was 14 years by then. In an instant, I moved from an innocent schoolgirl to a captive. I and many other girls were physically and mentally abused, sexually exploited. I bore 2 children that I returned with. And I spent 8 years in captivity before returning back home in 2004. My life in captivity was hard. Every time I sit and think, I fail to really believe that it is me who had to go through all those challenges and difficult times. But I am positive and know that there is always a better tomorrow. And I told myself never to lose hope, even if I know I went through something that I did not desire to go through.
Indeed. And, Victoria, thank you for sharing that. And I want you to tell us which school, because, in our conversation before this interview, you talked about the importance of us not forgetting the other survivors, the other girls who were abducted. Which school are we talking about?
I was abducted from St. Mary's College, Aboke, in northern Uganda. It's very true that we often forget things that happen around us. The incidents of the Aboke girls was talked about. Even if we were already in captivity, we learned of it. Every time I read about what is happening, like the abduction of Chibok girls, ongoing abduction of boys in Nigeria, kids being abducted all over the world, I feel hurt. Mm-hmm. We tend to rush to act only when situations are fresh and forget the past that will have taken place. Why do I say this? Aboke girls were abducted, people talked about it all over the world. 5, 8, 10, 13 years down the road, the girls returned with many other women. After returning, I must say most of the Aboke girls went back to school, graduated in different programs, but it hurts me to see that majority have never had the opportunity to get any employment. They're just there home. Those are moments that re-traumatizes individuals of their past experience, and it makes it hard for them to heal. Why? As someone like me and a few of my colleagues have decided to actively participate in this survivorhood movements, the peace building work, not all can do the same because that is not their calling. They also have a reason for not wanting to participate directly into some of these programs. But that does not mean we should forget them. They need to find a life to cater for themselves, their children, the family around them. I hope one day, one time, people will begin to reconsider following up all these Aboke girls who returned from captivity, plus the other women here in northern Uganda. Thank you.
Yes, actually, this is a really important point that you've made about what happens after, the initial interest in what happens with survivor communities. There is a lot of interest in the international sphere about what is happening, particularly after the initial abduction and then perhaps when they've returned. And the Aboke girls were particular because I think it was the principal of that school who had essentially negotiated at the time with the LRA captives. And then a large percentage of the girls were released then, but 30 were taken captive, and you were among that 30. And as you said, they've come back, they've managed to rebuild their lives, but afterwards, how can they really fully reintegrate, find jobs, and lead some level of normalcy? And I think I agree with you. It is absolutely critical that we do not forget, whether it be the Aboke girls, the Boko Haram girls, whoever they are, we never should forget them. And any policies that governments are putting in place should take them into consideration as well. But Victoria, you use your own experience as a survivor to propel you to start an organization for survivors and on behalf of women survivors in particular. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so when I returned back from captivity, my family, the community welcomed me home. And this gave me the opportunity to make up a decision to go back to school. Indeed, I went back to school and resumed my studies from where I'd stopped in secondary level 2. Before being taken into activity, I thought I would be an engineer, and if I failed in that line, I would become an accountant. But things changed. When I returned, I started feeling there was need for me to engage more with the community around me. So I decided to go for a humanity course at the university, that is development studies. And I'm grateful that after completing my studies before graduating, I was called by a local organization, the Justice and Reconciliation Project, to come and volunteer with them. I embraced it. Why did I embrace it? The first day they called me to attend a workshop where women had gathered. Women who had returned from captivity were gathered. It was more or less an exchange program, women from different districts within the region. 90% were people I knew, and they couldn't believe this was me. I had already completed my university degree. I listened to the stories, and as they talked, I participated. Then before I could leave to go back home, I was asked whether I could volunteer with them. Mm-hmm. That love of seeing these women we were with in captivity gave me the desire to volunteer. But I also knew I needed to respect my parents. So I told them I would go back, discuss with my parents, and then give them a feedback. Mm-hmm. When I reached home, I talked to my sister. She said, no, you might have to talk to your father. And I went to my father. He told me, oh, my daughter, you have tried, you have moved on. I wouldn't want you to go back there, begin memorizing what you went through. It may re-traumatize you. We're just trying to protect your interests. I told him, Dad, I think it's okay. Let me go. I feel it's a good place for me. Indeed, my father and the family at large listened to me. They said, it's okay, we shall grant you your wish if that is what you want. But no, we are always there for you. I returned to Gulu, started volunteering with the Justice and Reconciliation Project. It was more or less documentation, research, documentation, and advocacy. Then this program of the Women's Advocacy Network was founded under the Justice and Reconciliation Project. That's where I started coordinating it, working directly with women who had returned from captivity with their children. I found joy in working with them. But every time I interacted with the women, like I could hear something that was not being listened to fully. They will tell their story, the advocacy flows, but they always say, my future is shattered. I don't want that one of my children to be the same way. I wish they could have a future because it's they who will help us. And as a mother, as a survivor, I could see my children are home, they are going to school. I've also gone to school. Then here is this woman who has not gone to school. She's trying, maybe making beads. Others are just trying to do casual labor in different places. But she's having that vision of seeing the child go to school. Yes, they have a clear dream of what they would like to see, but how can they be there? So I started thinking of one key thing that is not being focused on is livelihood. You can make your child go to school if you can afford to pay their fees, you can afford to buy for them uniforms, books. I said, we will have to think deeper into something to do with the livelihood for the women. But that was not the mandate for the organization at that time. You can't just push for it. Over time, we kept on discussing about it, and they started bringing in a component of if there's a donor or a specific individual who want to support these women, we will go ahead to give them that opportunity. But it wasn't enough. So this remained as something that I told myself, you will have to figure out how this can work. In 2016, I decided to explore other opportunities and work with another organization. That is when I applied and was given a place at International Justice Mission to work again with survivors of land rights violations, intimate partner violence. It was a very good package, a holistic approach. Medical is provided, those getting education, livelihood, but that was strictly to those who were the direct clients of the organization. Right. So every time I try to say, I wish I could bring some of these women who returned into this program, but they don't qualify to be participants, active participants in this. So I told myself it would be good to just start an initiative. And indeed, I discussed this in 2017, started drafting out how this would look like. This went on successfully, and I said, no, let me found Women in Action for Women to focus on the livelihoods for the women. And livelihoods, it is good to give somebody the skills. You get the skill remains in you. Beyond beyond the donor supporting beyond specific immediate programs coming in, you can always use your skill, earn a living, but you can extend that skill to another person. And our desire at WOW is to say, train women and youth so that they can be trainers of trainees. We want to support better our communities. We should have that heart to think beyond myself, my family, to who are our neighbors and how those neighbors can extend that. So it should be something that is can be replicated elsewhere. So the motivation behind WOW is to provide that skills development, enhance them with business so that they can diversify in different angles. Once you do this for women, for youth, they are empowered. People talk of empowerment. You're not going to say you come and empower me by training me once in a workshop or twice. It is never enough. Sometimes I listen to it today, I have to reflect, how will this work, more. So to empower somebody, you have to make them be part of the process.
Yeah.
Identify what you want to do. Let us support you in line of your talent and what you feel you can do best within your community.
Mm-hmm.
Get that skill, use it. You own it. You will feel like, I have to do it. This is what I have always desired to do. This is how I can do it. So nobody, like, you're not just imagining, oh, how will I go about this? The market, you know, if I'm doing tailoring, the market is maybe in these schools. I'm going to make clothes for Christmas. I'm going to make maybe masks. If you're dealing in hairdressing, if you're dealing in farming, you know specific crops that grow well.
Yeah.
You know when the prices go up and when the prices are low. So all you need is helping you to learn how to store these things, your crops, learn how to like find communication skills to reach out and talk to schools, see how you can partner, you be their supplier and so forth. That is what we are looking for at WOW. And once we do this, the women, the youth will feel that they have a responsibility, a role to play in advocacy. Advocacy works automatically, by the way. When individuals start seeing like initiatives are working out, addressing the needs they have, they feel like, no, this is our community, what is taking place. If people are going to work on the community road, they will be there. If you want to clean the health center, you want to be part of this, they will always be there. They will actively participate. So for me, like thinking, oh, there's a time when this will work out. No, we have these solutions. We can do that. All we need is like the support to start implementing it fully. Let people see. I don't have to be like the one talking about it all the time. Individuals, the community must be able to tell these stories. They should appreciate on their own, or even the women. I don't have to be the one creating the success story. No, I want the stories to be there, people to just talk about it themselves. And one thing I love about it is that I am a survivor. I have lived it. I interact with these women, their stories, even if they tell people their stories we get to talk about in details than they could tell any other person. So it is my joy, and I'll be happy one day to see some of these things manifesting itself fully.
Well, you know, it will happen. It will happen with the passion that you have for this. I know this passion will generate its own passion, Victoria. And I think you've picked up on so many important points that I want us to look at again quickly. And one of them is, as you said, the fact that a lot of the survivors are very generationally focused. So it's no longer just about what they need now, especially women. They are thinking beyond me. What about my children? What future for them? Because, and I think that's an important point to understand the importance of building sustainable policies and systems that benefit the next generation. And I think the next generation that I would like to just touch on briefly is the children born of war. What are some of the experiences of children born of war? Children who were born to mothers who were to girls who were abducted and who have come back. What are some of the experiences that they have now in Uganda? And what do you think an organization like yours could do, if supported, to counter some of those experiences that they are currently having?
Yes, so in line to the children born of war, identity is the key aspect, like affecting most of them. You see, if you're okay, you may not mind much about your identity. You can always talk to people here. My father was this at some point, and then he left. We have never known him. But for individuals who are struggling daily to survive, that identity issue becomes a big problem in their life. Because you always imagine, maybe if my father was there, maybe if I'd known him, I would be better off. That imagination deters you from doing anything. Then the other challenge is the mothers don't have even an answer. There are those who do not know exactly where these men came from. We those days did, under the Women's Advocacy Network, something called family tracing, trying to trace the paternity of specific children that had expressed interest, that they wanted to know their paternal people. We tried. We had success in other places, but also there are places where we were not successful. There are families that did not want to associate much with that because of the best reason known to them. It's either they don't want the community to identify them with their son who could have committed a specific crime and is known by the people around. So they would say, no, we don't want this one. But there are those who feel this is an opportunity for us to have that picture of our child, the family. Let's welcome his child, his children, and so forth. So you would see the children that went and were reunited with their family, how they felt. Even if the families were struggling, they felt good. They were okay. So for some of these children born of war, the best we can do for them is to help them and their mothers find a better future. We know education is one aspect. If somebody is educated, you begin changing the narrative of how you think and approach certain things in life. It could be tough, but you'll always find a way to tackle the situation. For those who can't go through formal education, let's send them for skills, the vocational skills training. Help them find something to do and keep themselves busy, to avoid that scenario of knowing who is my other brother from somewhere you meet, talk. Mothers are also struggling, mothers are so forth. To be honest, the issue of children born of war should have been like a special program within the government of Uganda. Where do they go and how will they ever survive? It is a very tough thing. But like people treat it, oh, it's being discussed, children born of war in northern Uganda, we need to do something. When will you ever do it? Even time for going to school is passing. Apart from a few organizations who are trying to like say, oh, we will send you to school. But not everyone have the opportunity to have access to specific sponsorship that is being offered. That is done to maybe 20%. What about the majority of these children? Where do they go? There's the universal primary education, universal secondary education. That is not enough. First of all, the schools, kids like this can go to these schools that are non-performers. By the time they are reaching that level, they can't even qualify to now do any other course. It's costly for mothers to pay for them. So we need to think deeper. That putting just policies in place and discussing for 10, 20 years will not address some of these issues. But tackling real issues, even if you provide something that is basic, as long as it's the beginning towards that direction you want to do, it would be good.
Well, speaking of policies for 10 years, I mean, the Uganda Transitional Justice Policy is one of these. The discussion around the policy lasted for about 10 years, the draft phase, and it was passed in 2019. But, you know, we're still waiting for a transitional justice bill and for implementation. How do you see that? How do you see, for example, the transitional justice policy and the bill being able to effectively change the landscape for survivors, and in particular in the area of reparations, which a number of survivors have waited for so many years?
I wish that could happen tomorrow or tomorrow next, but to me it would be a dream. You see, where you see discussions have to take place, it has to go through different stages. We just know that that is not about to take place. But if that could take shape and the government come in to identify survivors, not just the organizations that today are working with the government like JLOS, something could happen. Why? I've had people talking at local, national, international level that let's involve survivors in all the processes. How do you involve them? If you're coming to implement that, have we mapped and identified the different categories of survivors or victims in our communities? How are they informing the program? This is something that it's already a document. So do we have a new plan in place on how these individuals will come in to start being active participants at different levels?
Mm-hmm.
In our earlier talk, I told you of very many girls and boys who have returned. Examples of the girls is the Aboke girls.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been the best opportunity for all the girls, not just me and 3 others who are actively participating in this peace building world in Uganda. Even the other ones would have got the opportunity to now be involved at different levels. Why? They understand. They may not be actively participating now, but they understand what it means to go through what you've gone through. So in any discussion that is taking place, they will be able to say, look, beyond thinking academically or with the experience, this is what it means in reality. And an approach in this direction would help us. So that suggestion helps to open people's mind.
Yeah.
To be able to know that, okay, as much as we are thinking that if we go to the district or the village, do this, it would work. I think it's important we listen to what the other ladies or the boys were saying. Bring them back and see how best we can approach, have a different strategy. But without doing all that, it will not work. Me, I like our decentralization system. From the village level to the parish, to the sub-county, district, central government, and the different categories of survivors are there in all this, who can participate in all these stages. But do we have them? You want to have Victoria, maybe to sit in Gulu in Kampala, to represent the interest of each and everyone. It's wrong. I can't represent the interest of each and everyone. I can have that broader picture, my experience and so forth, but then engaging, because the person who is at the village level could be having something, some silent issues that I know I can talk about it, but their presentation will open up the mind of the people.
So let me ask you, Victoria, without
yes.
just to follow up on this point, how do you think Women in Action for Women, this powerful organization that you've put together, how do you think this network, because I believe it is a network of different women's or smaller organizations, how do you see that being able, for example, to contribute to any further discussion or ultimate implementation of the transitional justice policy?
So at this point, I know we are still a small organization, but we are positive. I'm very sure we will be there. So our engagement would be one, wherever we are, engage with the different stakeholders, not only survivors. We know we have the local government officials, other organizations, other survivor networks or groups in the communities or where we are. Involve them, involve church leaders, involve the cultural institutions in some of these discussions. Let them feel they are part of, or their presence is acknowledged, and you know they can also play a role. If you involve them, then they start taking interest in understanding deeper who you are, what are the challenges on ground, how can we together address this? Because everyone would love to live in a community where you feel and like always want to be in it. So engaging the different stakeholders will be an achievement to any step moving forward. Survivors are as important as those local government officials, just like the cultural institutions, the church, and the members of the community at large, organizations working in this. We are all important. And we have to embrace that togetherness, the collective action, if we are to achieve at all levels. Because pushing for something from the village level to the parish level, there's that understanding. The parishes push it to the sub-county with an informed view.
Yeah.
At the sub-county, they already understanding. Also, this is how our community is and how certain things are happening, and these are proposed recommendations. So as the sub-county or the councillors bring it at the district, they are no longer coming to ask questions. They understand it. They have it at fingertips. They push it to the central government from an informed viewpoint. And even the person receiving it, the other side, no, oh, so is this the situation? Yes. Can we come? Or are you able to present to us these different stakeholders? We also listen from them. You listen. You don't have to go back and consult. All the different persons you want are in the house, are representing their voices. So you don't need to do much. It is something that people think it's hard, but it is not hard. So in this scenario there, that's where we start seeing the importance of hybridity. Bring the bottom up, the top-bottom approach, mix them there. Let people see that all this works well.
So sort of from bottom up rather than the top-down approach where it comes only from the top, but they have very little understanding of how things really operate at the bottom.
Yeah, that mixture, the hybridity is a good component in this scenario.
Yes, and I think that one of the just to wrap things up, you are a survivor, but you are clearly a leader. You have a very strong sense of what you would like to see happen for survivors. You founded an organization, but what are some of the specific challenges that you, as a woman, as a survivor, as a leader, that combination, what are some of the challenges you face in being a leader? Sorry.
Yeah, being a leader is never easy, but you have to be determined and especially know who you are and what you want and how you intend to be there. So the challenges, if I look at for now as well, is that we are a small initiative at this point. We have a clear picture of what we will do, what we want to see, but we can't just operate. I'm right now working around sourcing for funds, resources, not only financial, that would make like our office stand firm. People have to come. People have to come and listen to us. We have to go visit. We have to like offer other services. These trainings, we have to establish the training center. And in my view as well, we have it like having a vocational center. This training center will not work only as a training center. It will also be a point of harmony. The different persons can come, those who are participating in skills development. The women will feel they have a space where they can really tell their stories amongst themselves. Seeing these survivors putting up a center themselves is first of all a contribution to the community. People begin realizing that, okay, there's life and hope beyond survivorhood. See what these survivors are now doing. Women in Action for Women is founded by a survivor. And you can tell, you see how they are doing their things. The women are more than happy, willing to participate, but the community members begin appreciating how they survive. So at the end of the day, there's social cohesion. There's that free interaction because they are contributing, we are contributing. Whatever we make, it's being bought by the community. Communities begin also sending children to this training center. And that is what we are looking for. And for your information, Women in Action for Women is not only looking at people who have returned from captivity in post-war areas. Different people have different challenges they go through. We have to be mindful of children who lost all their parents. We have to be mindful of somebody who can also not go to school. They have the desire to do something, but they can't afford to go to school. So we are saying, no, it's not only for those who have returned from captivity.
And what
any
about
other
the
person.
COVID era? Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to also that. How has the COVID situation, you know, sort of created more work for your organization?
So during this COVID, we didn't have resources. We just continued interacting with the other survivors, women. We didn't have, and we couldn't like financially support in any way. But this is an opportunity for us to tell. In fact, for me, the COVID era confirmed the need of making some people be able to provide for themselves. Now, you see, if somebody was offering casual labor and being paid, they were not able to do it. But people who were making clothing were able to make masks. Those who were doing their farming continued to do that. If you were doing knitting the sweaters, you could still do that in your home. So I learned that even these networks, the groups you form together as you support the women, form part of the strength that they can rely on during this like emergencies and so forth. So it's important. We really offer these skills, but also emphasize the need, the importance of that social support towards one another.
Thank you. Any final words? So, Victoria, I know that you've said a lot, but it's really important probably to send a word of encouragement maybe to another fellow survivor or another woman who might be thinking of starting an organization to help survivors. What would you say to that person?
One, I just want all survivors to know that they are not alone. We are many. They should always have hope, and let them stand firm and do anything they feel like they should do. Any simple idea you come up with or think within you is great. Please get up, go out there and do it. More so, I call upon all of us to continue working together in our respective communities to support our fellow survivors who have not yet had the opportunity to speak or to find space. Let's offer our colleagues a safe space to tell their stories, to participate. I know we can make it. There is nothing that cannot be done. There's always a solution to each and every situation around you. So I am determined, and I call upon all survivors to please stand out there. You can. Any thinking, any small contribution makes a bundle. We will be there. And I know at some point, people will be able to listen to us. We have the voice. We understand these things. And we know how the challenges, the situations we have gone through or others continue to go through can be addressed. The solution lies within communities.
Indeed, indeed. So well said. Victoria, do you have an email address or something that you'd like to say publicly so that if persons want to support Women in Action for Women in Northern Uganda, an organization that works directly with survivors and it's led by a woman survivor, that they can reach out to you and contact you? I know you have a profile on LinkedIn and you are also on Twitter, but do you have an email address that you'd like to share?
Yes, should I read it?
Yes, you can.
So it's VNYANY10@gmail.com.
And we will make sure to put it at the end of this, this video recording so that persons who weren't able to get that will be able to get it. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. It was a very interesting conversation. My takeaway is that we should never forget the Aboke girls. It might seem like just one small group, but it is a reminder to us all that if we forget even that group, that it is actually something that is telling about how we treat survivors generally. And so thank you for the reminder about the Aboke girls. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for the courage to lead other survivors and use your experience to turn adversity into definitely a situation of triumph. Thanks again, Victoria.